What we do in Christmas pageants is blend Matthew's story, which is the oldest one, with Luke's story, which is the latest one, and they don't fit, but we make them fit. And we make them fit in Christmas pageants by following Luke's storyline till we get to the end, then we tack on Matthew's wise men as the final scene. But there's so many incompatibilities in these two stories that we're not aware of. In Matthew, Mary and Joseph live in a house in Bethlehem. So there's no need to go down to Bethlehem to be enrolled. They already live there. It's only in Luke that they live in Nazareth, and so they have to go down to be enrolled in some sort of taxation, which in itself is absurd. Can you imagine anybody saying we're going to have a national enrollment and you've got to go back to your ancestral home, and Joseph had to go back to Bethlehem because he was the heir of King David? Folks, there are 1,000 years between King David and Joseph. These stories aren't meant to be literal, and they certainly aren't meant to be blended.
There's no way you can basically get these two narratives to fit together in any respectable historical way. Does that mean that nobody's ever tried to do it? No, of course, you've got all kinds of very, very smart fundamentalists who believe that the New Testament has to be accurate in every historical and scientific detail, or they believe that it can't be Scripture. And they will figure out some way to try to make sure that both these narratives can be fit together. But what I'm telling you is that no reputable historian will accept this, because you just have to fudge the stuff too much. You have to fudge the data. So what do we believe about the birth of Jesus? Most of us think we don't know anything about the birth of Jesus. All the Christmas stories are later tradition. The one thing that most of us would say is that Jesus probably was from Nazareth. His family was simply from Nazareth because he's called Jesus of Nazareth. And the traditions that got him to Bethlehem for his birth are probably later pietistic traditions that Matthew and Luke later developed to get Jesus born in Bethlehem for fulfillment of prophecy reasons.
The function of a birth story is to be an overture, not a first act. Matthew is going, for example, to tell the story of Jesus as the new Moses. That's going to be his gospel. So right in chapter 5, Jesus is going to go up on the new Mount Sinai and say, "You've heard what them said of old, but I say to you, a new improved Moses, as it were." So Matthew knows, I have to write my infancy story so to describe Jesus as a new Moses. What do I know about Moses? Well, Pharaoh tried to kill him by killing all the kids. Herod is going to kill all the kids to get Jesus. So the infancy story that you have in Matthew and differently in Luke is an overture to their Gospels. It's not information about the birth of Jesus. We don't have a clue of anything about Jesus until the public life. We don't know anything. And that shouldn't surprise us, because Augustus, for example, wrote his own biography to be up on his mausoleum. That's why we still have a copy of it. And he begins with, "At the age of 19. You know, who cares? Yeah, I did all that other stuff, but at the age of 19, I hit the public scene. So it's really, in the ancient world, when a person moves on to the public stage, that we really start getting anything. The other stuff is probably, well, this was a tremendous leader, so his mother must have had a dream the night before he was conceived or something. The infancy stories are not information about Jesus.